Love and health form the foundation and pillars that support all that you do to create fulfillment and success in every aspect of your life. Love within us guides our paths while our health enables us to drive forward. The two are inseparable and vital for growth and reaching your fullest potential. Welcome to Love and Health in America with Dr. Doohi Lee, Mary McMahon, and Jens Johnson. Dr. Lee is an international speaker, author, inventor of the Diamond Matrix, and medical director of Advanced Surgical Arts. Mary McMahon is a certified financial planner committed to maximizing your financial success. And Jens Johnson, the Mindset Master, is a best-selling author, speaker, mastermind facilitator, and success mindset coach. They are committed to help you succeed by optimizing your health, finances, and relationships. Please join them and explore all the facets of love and health to achieve and live your abundant life. Here are your hosts, Dr. Doohi Lee, Mary McMahon, and Jens Johnson.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Love and Health in America. Now, we are so excited because we have got Mary McMahon that's joining us, who now you are just part of the team.
Yeah, part of the family.
I am.
You're part of the team. You've always been a part of the team.
I always have been. I'm one of you.
That's right.
I know you are definitely a much needed portion of this love and health that we talk about. That's why we had to have a money person. Mm-hmm. And then we have Dr. Doohi Lee, and we also call you AKA Dr. Bombay.
Dr. Bombay, yes.
I mean, does everybody remember that show Bewitched? Dr. Bombay.
You have to twinkle your nose.
Yeah, so we just say Dr. Bombay, Dr. Bombay, because you're magic. You have the answer to everything, in my opinion.
Thank you. I don't know about that.
In my opinion, you do.
Okay, well.
But, you know, every week, one of the things that we discussed is we want to bring a topic that we talk to the audience about that has some facet of love in it. And today we're talking about the power of a mastermind. And I know all three of us, of course, have been involved, are still involved in a mastermind. I actually facilitate a mastermind, and Mary is one of those incredible members. And we meet every other week at Dr. Lee's. And because we're working, we do that because we work together and we collaborate. Right. And so one of the things we want to talk about is, to me, the power of a mastermind is really creating an environment of love where people can grow to their fullest potential, because it's been my experience that you really can't grow to your fullest potential unless you are in an environment of love. And there are a lot of people that don't love themselves. And I want to know, of course, Dr. Lee, from your professional opinion, the people that you come in contact with, you know, how do you deal with people on a professional and a daily basis? Mm-hmm. You deal with them with love. Mm-hmm. And what has been your experience with masterminds?
Wow, well, there's so many layers to that. Masterminds, obviously, personally, so in terms of personal growth, that goes many different levels. When I was growing up, it's really interesting because before this episode started, before you came, Mary and I were having this conversation about how I grew up in a way. You know, I was born in Korea, and I didn't come here till I was 11 years old. She was asking about my musical background and all that. I didn't really even see a piano until I came to the United States. So I started music very late. And so since we're talking about this kind of brings up a point I was going to try to make about the mastermind. Obviously, we're talking about masterminds for adults, but I think we need like a mastermind concept for kids, because when I was going through the whole idea of what I want to do, because she was saying, well, by the time you're 7 years old, you know what you're doing. And I said, I was totally clueless at 7 years old. And the whole point of trying to figure out what you want to do, going through college and all that, I really had very little guidance. In fact, virtually no guidance. And I think if I was in some sort of a mastermind group or something like that, I may have different types of achievements. Who knows? But I was thinking, you know, I'm at an age where I'm starting to think back on my life, what I could have done better or whatever. And I thought, God, I was so stupid and clueless growing up.
I think we all were.
Well, no, me particularly. I'm thinking about myself. I was like, man, if I had known this or that, I would have done this or, you know, whatever. Had some more guidance in terms of where, you know, make different decisions about school or career or whatever. And I think that would have a huge impact on the other things that are done, maybe even as a physician or a musician or whatever, but even your own personal growth. So I think the idea of mastermind really traverses your entire life. You know, obviously we're talking about adults, professionals, in terms of how you want to develop your professional path and career. But man, I think if you have something like this for kids in high school trying to figure out what you want to do, I think it'll have a huge impact on, things like that. And to go back to the question you were asking me about how I deal with my patients, I don't know. I think my approach is to be the best physician I can be. And I think the more I know, more awareness I have of different technologies and techniques, better I can serve my patients. And I think that's where the idea of Mastermind, not only from academic and training, but also in terms of how you deal with people in different levels. Obviously they come for medical issues, but I deal with them because I see them as human beings at different levels that they don't necessarily come to me for. I detect that and try to help them out. So I think that idea of Mastermind is critical in terms of kind of forming a foundation for yourself intellectually and emotionally, and also as a human being, but also allowing you to interact with different people at a much higher level.
Well, see, that's to me what you do is you collaborate, and you're a partner with your patients. I mean, that's one of the things I love about Mary as well, is you're a partner with your clients. And I think when you talk about a mastermind, you're talking about community, you're talking about partnerships, and you're talking about collaborating with people. And that's really I think the reason why all three of us have just basically we've gelled so well together, and we've attracted one another because we're, at the end of the day, we're all heart-centered. And so I think when you talk about a mastermind, you need that heart-centered group, and which is why I think your idea about doing a mastermind for kids is phenomenal, because kids need that environment of love. They need to collaborate, they need to feel belonged, and they need to feel safe.
They need guidance.
They need that safe environment. So, Mary, one of the things that I love about you is you just come from such a place of love. So how has your involvement in a mastermind impacted you personally and professionally, and how you deal with your clients?
I love being in a mastermind. I love being in your mastermind as well, because it expands your world. It expands your thinking, and you take those new realms of what's possible, and you bring that into every relationship that you have. So on the personal side, you've got the people in your life, and then on the professional side, you've got people in your life, and there's always this nice blending of personal and professional too, in ways that relate directly to a mastermind, because people are human beings.
Exactly.
Yeah, every human being wants to be acknowledged for the unique talents and gifts that they have. And my point of view is we have our whole life to realize our potential as a human being.
That's right.
There's no ceiling on it, no limit on it, no age limit. It's what the money is for, is to realize that. And a mastermind is really fantastic because you associate with like-minded people who are interesting and unique and really bring value. They bring a facet of value to your life. And it's almost like a tool in a toolbox that you can use. It's like, oh, that's a great idea. You're always inspired.
One of the things you just said is limitless. Yeah. And we talked about that, because in a mastermind, you really learn that you are limitless. And most people that get to that point to go into a mastermind, they've already learned that about themselves. But we were talking about how there are people that they really do put limits on themselves, or they have had other people put limits on themselves. Yeah. And of course, Dr. Lee, as amazing as you are and all the things that you've done, I asked that question is, when did you realize that you really don't have limits? And then what do you think about that?
Well, that's still a hard question to answer. I think I see limits in myself as just a human being. There's literally physical and intellectual limits. But in terms of, I realize limits from a professional point of view in terms of, okay, there are certain things that beyond a certain point of my training that I should not be doing, because one of the things that the oath is, first do no harm, right? So if I go beyond a certain level of my training and knowledge, there's a great likelihood I'm going to harm somebody. So I'm very careful with, I know what I've learned, I know what I know, and the good thing is, the thing that gets you is what you don't know, right? So I want to make sure that I don't go beyond that point too. And if there's something that I really want to understand, I'll go and study and learn it and make sure I feel very confident that I've conquered that area so I can actually help somebody. So those are the areas of limits that I kind of see. The idea of limitlessness in a sense that you're capable of learning whatever that you put your mind to. You talk about different trainings I have. I've learned a lot of different, almost disparate areas in medicine. They seem to be very far apart because I have a kind of curious mind, and I go to, I follow the things that I find interesting. So the limitless in the sense that I can go and learn and get trained in pretty much whatever I think I find interesting, The things that I don't do is because, okay, I have not been trained in that, so that is, quote unquote, my limit in a sense of I'm not going to be on a certain point. So that's kind of how I see myself in terms of being limits and being limitless.
Well, I think the neat thing, and Mary, you talked about it a little bit too, is, in a mastermind, when you collaborate and you talk with one another, you you find that clarity. And one of my favorite things to tell people all the time is the formula to success is clarity plus focus plus the right people plus the right actions plus accountability. And you need all 5 of those components to succeed. But a lot of times it takes years to find that clarity. Yeah. And what you do when you're working with people in your practice is you've got a certain formula process that you do with people. I remember the very first time that I met with you where you have the cards, the value cards. So can you talk about that how you help your clients gain clarity, and then what clarity have you found just working in the mastermind, how to serve your clients better?
That is a very interesting question that you've asked, Jens. People always think that working with money is about how much money you have. It's not about how much money you have. It's about who you are as a person, as a human being, and what are you interested in life? Where do you see that you do have limits? Where do you want to, take the limits away? Where do you not have limits? It's what you're interested in life. That's what the money is for. And so my work is really all about helping people take on what really matters most to them. Mm-hmm. And then all there is to do is to create and align the money around that.
And when you said that, one of the things, of course, we talk a lot about in the Mastermind is personal development. We read, and the book that we're reading this month is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Yeah. And I'm telling you, if you've never read this book, you have got to read this book. Yeah. But it really talks a lot about how you treat people and how you get the best out of people. And I think that's one of your gifts and talents anyway, Mary, because let me tell you, Mary is amazing. You speak to people like they're the most important person in the world. And I tend to think that I am, but you make me feel even more. You make me feel even more.
That's a true gift.
But it is a true gift. And it's something that I think that I don't want to say I think that you've improved in that area because I thought you were a 10 to begin with, but I see you even more communicating that to the gifts and the talents of the people that you work with. And people are scared of money. And when you sit there and say, listen, money isn't about making money, it's about you as a person, then people start to realize, hey, I do have gifts and talents. Yeah. And if you're not involved in a mastermind and you want to pull those gifts and talents out, that's what we do. We help one another pull out the gifts and talents, recognize what sets Dr. Lee apart from other physicians. Sometimes it's hard to know what makes you special, but when you're in a group and a room full of other people that interact with you, they pull it out of you so much easier.
And they see it in you when you don't even walk around thinking that way. That's not what your thought process is right there. You talked about it, Dr. Lee, with in terms of like knowing what your limits are. What I love, we all think we have limits. We all do. What's beautiful about being in a mastermind is you start to expand.
Right.
And so what you have noticed that has happened, that's been a byproduct of engaging with the mastermind group. I mean, success happens through in action, and success happens through others.
Right.
And your greatest success is always going to come from being in action and being in action through others. And a mastermind is just a fantastic way to bring that into your world, because it will impact every area of your life
You know,
in such a positive way.
It's so true. And I think, sometimes people, I don't know, we talk about a life team. And to me, our mastermind is a life team. That's why we have hitched our wagon to Dr. Lee, because Dr. Lee, Dr. Bombay, you're never getting rid of us. You are
not.
Dr. Bombay, Dr. Dewey Lee Bombay in Plano, Texas. You're never getting rid of us.
That's great.
But one of the things I think is really important when you do discuss a life team / mastermind, however you want to look at it, you've got to have a healthcare professional on your life team in your mastermind that you go back and forth with. And I know Dr. Lee and I have talked about this before, especially in the day and age in which we live right now, where healthcare is being politicized. Who can you trust? Talk a little bit about that. What's going on and your philosophy on how you're dealing with your patients, maybe differently.
Unfortunately, politics, comes into practice medicine, which is unbelievable. I mean, I always had a policy about masks and things like that in my office, which was no masks required, even during from the day one of this whole pandemic. I know what the masks do, cannot do, and all the things I talk about requirements for a mask. I mean, I just know scientifically it really is useless a device for that purpose. I mean, obviously, when I do surgery, I wear a mask, but that's a whole different purpose, and it's not for the antiviral thing that they're pushing. So I've always had a very different kind of philosophy, and I tell patients left and right, it's like, when you come to my office, you do not have to wear a mask. If you choose to wear a mask, that's fine, I respect that, but if you want to take it off, and I tell you, 99% of people, oh, thank you so much, and off it goes, because they don't know how to deal with it. And so that really has set a tone for a lot of things. And in terms of dealing with things like vaccinations and different discussions, I mean, obviously I have different views about all the science behind all those things, and I don't want to get into too much controversy here. But I'm very frank with my patients, and I can kind of tease them out, and they, once they understand where I am, they open up and they talk about those kind of things as well. So it really is, I think, telling them the truth. That's a big word, in quotation marks, I guess, about as far as what my understanding is from the science of, the vaccinations and medicine and the whole pandemic and the virus and what is going on. And I think we've been, really, I have to use the phrase brainwashed, but we really have been told a lot of falsehoods for various different kind of political purposes. And really is having some discussions with the patients about, okay, this is what's being said. And this is my understanding as a doctor and a scientist, of what this really is. And I can tell you what I see, and it's up to you to decide whether you accept, my interpretations, or you can accept yours, or Google's, or whoever you want to find. But try to give them a different perspective of understanding what's going on from a scientific and medical point of view. And so at least give them something to think about, rather than just accepting what is being fed to them. And I think that's probably the best I can do, because I don't want to necessarily change their mind from my own perspective, because that's not right. But what I can do is give them some different basis of their thought. So if 1 or 2 or 10 people think, okay, that's interesting, I'm going to think about that. And if that gives them a power to alter what they do based on some different kind of science or different kind of information, then I think I've done my job. And I think that's probably the best I can do as a physician, to support them and say, listen, this is not the only way. There are other ways to think about this. And this is the scientific basis on which to base this maybe new path of thinking for not only for yourself, but for your family in terms of masks and vaccines and whatnot. And that's kind of how I see my role.
Yeah, and one of the things I think is so important, and as I listen to you, it's why you need a mastermind. It's why you need a life team, because when emergencies happen or when crazy things happen in the world in which we live, and we don't know when that's going to happen again. You've got a personal relationship with people. So, as we talk about who are some of the people that should be on your life team, or AKA in the mastermind in which you interact, you got to have a money person too. So you've got to have a healthcare person. You've got to have a money person. Mary, who else do you think you need to have in a mastermind or on a life team that like you talked about, it's a tool in your toolbox?
Mm-hmm. That's another really good question, Jen.
She's full of them. That's her job.
What I love about this show, we've got love, and we've got health, and we've got money, and that to me is like that's the foundation from which you move forward. I mean, you could bring anyone or everyone who is interested in engaging with their lives, their talents, what they're up to. It's for the person who's interested in engaging in life. A mastermind is really where it's at.
Yeah, we talk about living at a higher intention. Mm-hmm. And that's really, it's when, at least this has been my experience. My experience in life is you meet these amazing, incredible people, and they have all these gifts and talents, and they don't even recognize it.
Yeah.
And it takes them meeting someone who's already living their life at a higher intention and at a higher energy frequency level where they even recognize it. And then they start to pull it out, because I believe everybody wants to be happy. I believe everybody wants to be successful. I believe everybody wants to create their life and not have life just happen to them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But if you're not with the right people, you just kind of fall by the wayside. Yeah. And one thing I think is incredible about you, Mary, is you are a phenomenal mother. I mean, you parent, and you have a certain perspective that I think really kind of ties into the principles of a mastermind of what you've done with your daughter. And we talked a little bit about parenting, but I mean, what do you think the role of a parent is with regards to your children's gifts and talents?
It is our job as parents to recognize the little geniuses that were given to us as gifts. Mm-hmm. I mean, there are gifts to us in life. It's our job to guide them, for them to be their magnificent selves. And it's not an easy job to do. No. It takes time, a little attention. I always say, don't have any more kids you have time for conversations for.
That is so true that you said that. So I've got a 23-year-old son, and for those of you who don't know, it's recently my mom passed away. And before the last 2 years, my mom has been dealing with cancer, and she fell and broke her hip. And I was blessed because I had an orthopedic surgeon that told me, listen, 70-80% of people at this age that break their hip, they're going to be gone in 2 years. And he said, if you can take a pause for 2 years, if you can slow down for a little bit and spend as much time with your mom as possible, you will not regret it. And, one of the things I am is coachable. I like to have fun. I like to have a good time. I can be running 100 miles an hour. But when I have somebody that is an intelligent, smart person that knows what they're talking about give me some advice like that, I take it. Yeah. And I really did slow my whole life down over the last 2 years so I could take that time with my mom. And obviously I didn't regret it. I've changed myself as a person. But before that, I was a workaholic. And so I tell people now that I'm a recovering workaholic. Before all of this, my son would call me up, and 30 minutes, 45 minutes into it, I just said I have to go. I mean, I have to go because I've got to work. Now I will intentionally stay on the phone as long as I can stay on the phone with them. And the other day we talked for 3 hours.
Oh my God, wow.
And believe me, at 30 and 45 minutes, I was like, I gotta go. But I said, no, I'm gonna do this.
Yeah.
But part of that change over the last 2 years was not only the experience of my mom, but it was taking those experiences into the mastermind talking to Dr. Lee about it, talking to you, Mary, talking about the other people, and really kind of getting that confirmation. I don't know why as human beings we need confirmation, but we do.
Yeah, we do.
We do. Yeah.
We need that confirmation of, you know what, Jens, yes, put everything on the back burner.
Yeah.
Had I not had the mastermind and had incredible people in my life like the two of you and others saying you're on the right track, do it, I don't know if I would have. And
it would have been too hard for you to
it
do.
would have been, because
and so
you're
as a
scared.
mastermind, we allowed you to step into your greatness, and that 2 years that you spent with your mom, that was priceless.
It was so priceless.
What's interesting is you're talking about the 3 hours you spent with your son from your perspective, but you have no idea the perspective he has
That's so true.
of the 3 hours he spent with you.
You're going to make me cry, Dr.
No, but it's absolutely true, because because I think of myself growing up. I can't remember how many times I actually had conversations of that length with my parents. It really doesn't happen, and to have that even over a phone. And that's priceless, and I hope you do it again more often.
I will.
I think it's really is
You are going to make me.
priceless. No, but it's no different.
I've got my best friend of 41 years in studio with me, and she's all watering too.
No, but just the way you slow down to spend more time with your mother, of course, I'm sure she loved that, and that changed you. The time that you're spending with your son in this way, because you've changed, it's going to have a huge impact on him.
But
And
I
generations
think
that he's going to create. So I think this is huge.
But what just happened is what happens in a mastermind.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking about it from one perspective, because that's how we think. We only know what we know. But when you're discussing important life issues and decisions, and you're talking about it in a group, especially a group that you feel safe in, that it's an environment of love, you bring in that other perspective, and now that totally changes how I look at everything. And so I thank you for that, Dr. Lee. I mean, not only does he make me look good, you're making me better. But I think
Inside and outside.
Iron sharpens iron.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, iron sharpens iron. So, before we close the show, I just want to know from each of you, is there just a tidbit of just wisdom that you want to leave with our viewers regarding masterminds or life team or living your life on purpose? Anything before we close up?
Me.
Ladies first.
Always live your life on purpose. Always live out loud. Surround yourself with great people who really do lift you up. And I don't mean it in religious terms per se, but that's an area of life that flows into all other areas of life too. And a mastermind does that. It really elevates you as a human being. And it really encourages you to live life on purpose and to tap into the genius around you. That's what a mastermind is to tap into that genius.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I love that. Dr. Lee.
That's certainly, it's hard to follow that.
I've been having to follow you all.
No, please. No, I think each person, we talked about limits. I think each person can realize there really are no limits. I mean, of course, there are natural limits, but beyond that, in terms of following your dreams or your intellectual pursuits or interests, anything that really triggers your mind of like, what I find this interesting, you shouldn't let anybody put a limit on pursuing that thought, pursuing that interest, finding out as much as you can. And that's how you, I think, grow and develop. I mean, there are really no limits in that sense of developing not only your intellect, but also your emotional, and dealing with masterminds and other people who will have a huge impact on you, will not only empower your mind, but also your emotional growth and spirituality as well.
Definitely.
So that's I think the limitlessness we're talking about. Is having that open mind and open soul, if you will, to allow that to flower as you develop your interest and pursue that.
And I think that's probably one of the biggest benefits that I have received from the mastermind is you grow, because it's not just you.
Right.
You know, success happens with other people, and that's by design. I mean, we can't grow to our fullest potential by ourselves. There's no way in the world I'm ever going to know as much as you, Dr. Lee.
Please, you know so much more than I do.
No,
I'm kidding.
you know, in your area, your zone of genius, and there's no way I'm going to know as much as Mary McMahon in your zone of genius. So you really get to tap into everybody's zone of genius, and you're so much happier. You are just so much happier. And I've loved our conversation today about the power of a mastermind. And we hope that something that we've said has really inspired you to learn more about a mastermind. Please reach out to us, comment. I'll be happy to talk to you live, as well as these two amazing people. And until we meet again,
live richly,
love deeply,
and stay healthy.
Thank you for being with us for this episode of Love and Health in America. Dr. Doohi Lee, Mary McMahon, and Jens Johnson are committed to help you achieve a life full of love, health, and abundance. Please join us in our next episode as we share another facet for you to optimize love and health in your life. Until next time, love deeply, live richly, and stay healthy.